Okay, so we'll start with my wish today. So, Ashok, you can read if you want, if you're okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
I'm
Go ahead.
audible.
Yes.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. My wish. The lover has to keep the wish of the beloved. My wish for my lovers is as follows. 1. Do not shirk your responsibilities. 2. Attend faithfully to your worldly duties, but always keep at the back of your mind that all this is Baba's. 3. When you feel happy, think Baba wants me to be happy. When you suffer, think Baba wants me to suffer. 4. Be resigned to every situation and think honestly and sincerely. Baba has placed me in this situation. 5. With the understanding that Baba is in everyone, try to help and serve others. 6. I say with my divine authority to each and all that whosoever takes my name at the time of breathing his last comes to me. So do not forget to remember me in your last moments. Unless you start remembering me from now on, it will be difficult to remember me when your at end approaches. You should start practicing from now on. Even if you take my name only once every day, you will not forget to remember me in your dying moments.
Avatar Meher
Sar,
Baba ki Jai.
How is the first one, two, three related to provisional ego? Any thoughts?
Do not shirk do your responsibilities with the provisional working ego in place. Attend faithfully to worldly duties, but keep it about. Yeah, it is all linked to what you when you feel happy. Think about
And I was thinking about this, Sunilji.
Jai Baba.
I, I, I work on the projects which are, very challenging and a lot of pressure. So,
Right.
doing your responsibility to what extent you rough off people, and then pull them up to do the job. Beyond the point, I get confused whether I should leave it to Baba or I should drive it.
Baba is doing it.
It's a very tricky or very a thin line to, it confuses
Right.
all the time.
That's true.
Sometimes
Actually, that was a topic of my discussion this morning as well on my walk. So if you do it with the wrong recognition of the provisional working ego, you may end up being BBC, right? You're just saying, "Hey, everything is Baba," and then doing silly stuff and adding to your samskaras. So you have to also keep in mind the intelligent action part apart from the gnosis. Gnosis is important. Gnosis with
Provisional ego is,
PWE.
yeah.
Right.
It's not a free license to do anything.
That's the temptation, right? That could end up being a temptation if you take the wrong identification of PWE. If you wrongly identify with PWE, you may use it as a license to do all the wrong stuff. So gnosis with the true identification of PWE will help us progress.
Right.
Sanjay, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's tricky actually. What you call it, this is only a provisional thing that I am acting, or whether it is real. One has to really ponder upon it and think it over and over again, and then it will emerge of its own actually. So that focus has to be there from us. Yeah.
I just want to add.
Only individual knows. Nobody else can tell it actually. Yeah.
No,
so
but the
whether
individual can also be deluded. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So if the individual may not even know heart of heart because he is under this delusion that it is PWE. That is the worst problem.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
problem.
basically, on a very practical, if I pull somebody or and that thought or whatever or get pulled up, thought lingers on me for very long, then probably yes, that is coming out of my provisional working ego. If I have pulled somebody and just after a while, that was just on that topic of discussion and then you forget about it and then be as normal as before, then yes, then you have a control on your provisional working ego. I mean, maybe these kind of examples you have to meditate upon and then act accordingly. Yeah.
Interesting. Correct.
संजय जी, I'm curious, आप कितना डांटते हो लोगों को?
Not
You
much,
seem to be the last
but
person.
no. Not much really. Earlier I used to actually. I am a Aries man, so I basically typically my nature is to drive things to get done. But over the years I have mellowed down, but still that trait remains actually. Once in a while I really think that people are not acting as they must be acting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Jai Baba. Baba is with you.
Yeah,
Go
Jai
on.
Baba. Jai Baba.
So, if you recollect, guys, we basically had a few questions. Let's start with those questions now.
The previous discussion.
Yeah.
Can we act without ego?
Previous, as in continuation of PWE is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Can
Can
you
anyone act without ego?
You mean zero ego?
Zero ego.
Not possible.
Not possible.
I think when we become mazhoobs and all that, then
Right.
we are driven by gods
I think
without
from
our mind.
what I
but-
roughly remember, Kama will remember pages and references, but my rough memory is ego stays until duality stays. Sixth
Yes, yes.
plane.
Yes.
So if you don't have ego, maybe you're on seventh. Am I right or wrong? I don't know.
No. As long as you are acting, you are not in any plane as such, or not certainly in seven. So you need to act. So that means ego should be there to act. So how do you use that ego, or what part of the ego we use is all our discretion. So whether it is provisional or whatever short form Karthik told, or the say false ego or the real ego. So this we need to keep always thinking over. So whenever you act, post act, we can always think over what is that made me do this, and by this we try to learn which is the best way out. That's how I look at
No.
it.
So it's actually prescriptive. So Baba is very prescriptive in this. He is saying that use PWE. Don't think too much. Use PWE, and if you are able to act with the provisional working ego, you are done. You are not adding sanskaras. You are having the ego, which, as you rightly said, you need it to act. Right? You are acting. You are in the world, but not of it.
Yeah.
To use another famous expression, right? You are in the world, but not of it. So you are able to freely do stuff, but not have any binding, not create any new samskaras, and proceed on with life, even before you reach the planes, right? So I think that's what I'm taking away. I'm not obviously there, but that's what I'm taking away. Kavai, you've been silent.
Karthik, I just wanted to add.
Jai Baba. Yeah. Jai Baba, sorry. See, I think that every one of you is correct looking at from different angles. See, one is like, if we go back to our readings in God Speaks and Discourses, first is, one is action in action, which we know about. Intelligent action for unwinding sanskaras, and unintelligent action where you are spending sanskaras. So there again, you are going to use Vivek and Vairagya. That is your discrimination and dispassion to do a certain kind of action. If you are in Vivek and Vairagya all the time, the probability will be that you will do intelligent action because you are aware whatever is happening that I need to respond, not to react. That is one part. Second part is if you use the principles from violence and non-violence, there you have certain there are 6 different aspects, the principles that Baba talks about with different examples. Now, we all know that every situation is unique. And this is where discrimination is very important. Now, we are talking about aspirants who don't have the gift of pure love. Okay. When we are talking about an aspirant who has the gift of pure love from the perfect master, that person doesn't need to have discrimination, vivek, vairagya, knowledge of God speaks, and so on, because they are spontaneously and naturally full of love. Okay. But for most aspirants, what we are seeing is that, again, let's come back to what we are discussing about the Majzub state, the God realized souls, the 56 God realized souls. They are 24/7, 100% in Satchitananda state. Okay. So we can't compare with that, which is what is called real fana. See, fana is not just nirvana. Actually, it is real fana is nirvana. And nirvana implies sanskaras equal to 0. And the first stage of real fana is nirvana. And the second stage of real fana is nirvikalpa samadhi. So which means 24/7, you are in divine, the Satchitananda state. And when we have Sahaja Samadhi, we know creation consciousness and God consciousness, which is called Fana Phila and Baka Bila, are happening simultaneously and spontaneously. That is why you should try to read, I think to explain this, you should read the supplement on Fana and Baka. Okay. It gives you 3 different categories. What is the first category? First category is people who are gross, who have gross sanskaras. And the gross sanskaras individuals are called the gross consciousness of the gross conscious God in man's state, experiencing the gross world directly. Okay, this is something, after last week's discussion, I was really going into the God speaks. One thing you will notice in God speaks is the semantics keep changing. Okay, like he will talk about gross consciousness, then he'll talk about gross conscious. There's a lot of semantics which will be very confusing, but I think I kind of cracked it. That people who have gross sanskaras, and we are all jivatmas, and Baba actually in God Speaks talks about the gross consciousness is what is experiencing the gross world. The subtle consciousness of the people in the subtle planes are experiencing the subtle world, and the mental consciousness of the mental conscious soul, who is in the 5th and 6th plane, right, is experiencing the mental world. Okay, that is one part. And remember the controversy we had. When are we dealing with the gross world, subtle world simultaneously? Yes, absolutely. The difference is, if you are gross conscious, if you are in the material world, if you are still in the gross plane of existence, you are using your gross consciousness to experience the gross world directly, but experiencing the subtle world and mental world indirectly. And the same principle holds on for subtle world and mental world, because depending on whether you are in the planes of involution, depending on whether you are in the reincarnation state, or whether you are already a part of the 56 God realized soul, you are actually using, you're experiencing the worlds, because the 56 God realized souls are not conscious of the gross, subtle, or mental bodies, as we know. They are not experiencing the gross, subtle, and mental world, the gross consciousness. They are experiencing their own self through their self, So I think fana, basically, when we talk about fana, is like a masti. Okay, and baka is what we call as suluk. That is why it's called sulukiyat and majzubiyat for a majzub, and a sulukiyat is for the Jivan Mukta and the Sadgurus. So I think that all of us technically are directly or consciously or unconsciously in being actually. Sometimes we are in the being state. Most of the time we are in the becoming state because we are not self-aware. So that is why we are defined as human beings. The only difference is we are not a human being all the time. That is the difference. Another thing, yesterday during Guru Purnima, I was reading the 7 awakenings, that Sunil had compiled, And if you read, I think in fact, we should be reading each one of them, at different times. There was one thing which I want to share with you, which is very, where Baba says, don't worry, be happy, in one of the 7 Sahwa sayings. And I'm just trying to get that. And what he says is, okay, yes, here we are. The 7 Sahwa sayings, there are 7 main postulates. Underneath, there are 2 or 3 or 4 sayings, okay, sub sayings. So this is the third one I'm reading. Real happiness lies in making others happy. The real desire is that which leads you to become perfect in order to make others perfect. The real aim is that which aims to make others become God by first attaining Godhood yourself. So what is interesting out here is, in this particular postulate, what is saying is, first you have to attain Godhood yourself, which is the real aim. See, the real desire, we all have desires. There's nothing wrong. That is why Baba said, the only real desire is to answer the question, who am I? And you also know theoretically that I am God. But we have to experience it practical, because in God Speaks, Baba talks about the Atma not as a separate entity. He calls it the gross consciousness of the gross God in man state, okay, of the gross conscious God in man state. So he actually defining each one of us as gross conscious God in man state, which is what is called, actually the definition is Manavatma. See, Jivatma is a general word for all souls which are embodied. But if you're looking at the human being, the technical word to be defined is Manavatma. So the real desire is that is that which leads you to become perfect in order to make others perfect. And the real aim is to first attain Godhood, so that the aim to make others become God. So in supplement, this is the last one I'm saying. In the supplement, Baba talks about actually that he can give God realization to everybody, including human and subhuman species. But you know what? The play of creation will come to an end. Number 3 is God himself can't go against the rules of the game. Okay, that is another one. And fourth one, why doesn't he give instantaneous, self-realization to everybody, is that you won't appreciate it. Unless you go through the challenge and you really work on yourself and you become liberated or self-realized, you won't have the empathy or sympathy to help others. That is why we see all these self-realized people going out of their way to actively participate with with the spiritual aspirants, taking on their suffering, actually, not the karma, but taking some of the sanskaras, so you can see the physical manifestation of suffering in them. But they really are not suffering, they are in bliss. Only the avatar becomes like a human being and suffers physically, but even then he is helped with the fact that his Sachitananda state helps him to handle it, compared to normal human beings. That is why I think that when people say that Baba suffered and Jesus Christ was put on the cross, those are all very symbolic, Jai Baba.
Kama, I have one question for you. See, when you said when you are in the gross body, then we are experiencing the subtle and mental in an indirect way. So, but going by God Speaks, they say that we are only conscious of the gross body and we are not conscious of the other bodies. So is that what you mean, or what do you mean by saying indirect?
Indirect mean that because you have gross sanskaras, you are directly using your gross body to experience the gross world, and indirectly using the subtle body and mental body means, for example, when you have emotions and feelings, okay, when you are having, mental thoughts. So that is what it means. That basically, when you go from the animal state to the human state, you are now dominated by gross sanskaras, the five physical senses: touch, taste, sound, smell, sight. So as long as the five physical senses dominate us, we are going to have gross sanskaras. But once you transcend and convert the gross to subtle sanskaras, which means, as you know, from the chapter on love, where you have the gift of pure love, because only in the subtle world you will have pure longing for God. See, we all have longing to unite with Baba and all that, but it's in a very gross form, because that gift of pure love is still not happened. See, we have the grace of Baba, no doubt about it. But do we have the grace, gift of pure love from the perfect master? And Baba has given the conditions of how you will get the gift of pure love, that you need to imbibe certain spiritual attributes: no backbiting, supreme tolerance, looking at the happiness of others, those kind of things, and not to worry. So yes, I think it is, I would call it, you are conscious of your subtle body. Suppose you are having an emotional feeling, suppose you are getting angry in your mind, you are conscious about it. Maybe you might not be, what do you call, you might react to that, sometimes when you are unconscious of our anger, we react. Suppose you are conscious or self-aware of your anger and you know it's not good, then you try to respond with positive, what do you call, unwinding sanskaras. You don't react. So I think you have to use that word conscious and the word direct and indirect very subtly, depending on what you are, in what context you're explaining that. Jai Baba.
Okay. I just have one more observation with regards to the provisional working ego. Can we say that, of course, Kama brought out the non-violence and violence part of it, and thanks. But can we say that we have to balance the mind and the heart when we are using the provisional working ego, because that's also just a tool or a scaffolding, and we have to be cautious. Can we say that, Kama, or anybody can explain or add to this thought?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, when you're talking about material life and spiritual life, you have to, first of all, discriminate in what situation am I in. Suppose you have to defend yourself physically. I've given you the example, the story about the Mahut, okay, the elephant god and the
Tell me
Mahut,
about
correct? So you have to use discrimination there. Definitely in material life, balancing of mind and heart is mandatory. When it comes to a choice between choosing between the mind or the heart, absolutely you go for the heart. What it means is that there is always in material life this balancing act between mind and heart. Like I gave you the, whether one is getting married or engaged to somebody. Suppose you like two different individuals that you are attracted to. Now, how do you make a choice? Suppose you have two different jobs which have the same kind of, expectations, and you look at them, you have to choose one. That is where you have to use your heart intuition. Heart always precedes the mind. But in material life, you can't just say like, oh, I use my provisional working ego and Baba said, my heart, and I got screwed. No way. That is why we have been given this intelligence. So in material life, you have to use your mind like a scaffolding, but in the process, in the background is always the heart, trying to influence you what is the right intuitive, direction that you need to take. This takes practice, and lot of case studies or experiences that you need to go through, like the MBA program of life, Jai Baba.
Thank you.
A pointed question to you, Kama. So are you operating at that 50-50 with prominence to heart and with a provisional working ego? You can choose to say I'll not answer, but
No. It's a constant struggle, dude. I mean, look, even the guy in the sixth plane, he might be seeing God everywhere. I see, like, I was telling you, when I was walking in the Himalayas, for me, that was an experiential experience, okay? Understanding, right? The realization that when I had to step on each rock very diligently, and I had to focus on my breathing because I needed to climb and I knew my body was not physically fit. I had to be completely focused. So what I did was I used that opportunity to meditate on Baba and God speaks to understand what is it that is going on at that moment. See, the goal was very clear. I am going through a trek. It is where you call a fusion of both a material and spiritual experience, you can call it, because you're on your own, you are with Mother Nature, and you have to watch each and every step. So I became very self-aware, and suddenly I noticed that the not even the duality, the triunity, the observer, the observed, and the observation, the subject observer, that myself, the object, the stones, the nature, everything, and the whole journey, the relationship suddenly became one. And I could see myself that, hey, you have been a rock. You've been, it might be a fantasy, it might be an imagination, but you can know, hey, you know what? This is where God speaks is making sense, because suddenly you are one with nature. So coming back to your question on provisional working ego, no, I am not self-aware all the time. But I think that as you keep working on it, that is why I think when you read the types of meditation, 4th chapter, Baba talks about 3 ways of reading. First, you have to read constantly. Second, you have to keep, thinking about it, contemplating, introspecting, reflecting all the time about what you have read and how it relates to your day-to-day life. And third, it will become effortless. So I have not reached that effortless state. I am still in the second stage, where I'm always trying to contemplate on God speaks discourses and relating it to our day-to-day life. I think that is what Baba's message is, So I think there is nothing, if you look at the Mandali, if you look at all the perfect masters, you will notice that they are behaving like ordinary human beings, except that they have godlike qualities, Jai Baba.
Okay, cool. So coming back to where we were, I know we've had a longish discussion, and maybe there's some more discussion to be done before we get back to reading. I hope, given that we are 4 chapters down into meditation, we also had a meditation last Sunday. Did anybody try to meditate on the journey of the soul message this week? Just a question. I did not. But if anybody did, you could share your experience before we start and take the questions. So that's not a good sign. So I think Baba has said that this is a key message to meditate on. So let's resolve over the coming week, and maybe if you find some time today, to actually read and then meditate on this message and see what experiences we get from that. I think that's a request to the group. Let's try that. So from that session last week, we had quite a few questions flying, and then we had doubts, and we kind of crystallized them. Thanks, Mamaji and Soma, for helping finalize these questions. So I put these questions out there so that people think and come back over the week. Again, I don't know how many people did that. But what was very interesting is quite a few of that got kind of answered in the quite unwittingly in the session that we had with Ward Parts on Sunday. So I don't know how many of you made the connection, but it was like literally he started where we needed him to start. So we got some of those clarities, right? But So these are the questions that remain. Cosmic number of souls, does it remain the same or reduced by realized souls? How does it work? Did anybody meditate on this, think on this, research on this, get any questions, get any answers? Kama, your mic is unmuted. No response. Mawadi is saying something, but he's on mute.
Jay Baba, you want me to comment on these questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so cosmic number of souls, does it remain the same, only reduced by realized souls?
So it's not just Kama. Anybody who has answers on this or points of view around this, please jump in. But Kama, go ahead.
So, we all know that, as Baba said, there is only one real question and there is only one real answer. Between that, there are infinite questions with infinite answers. So this is part of it, okay, as from the top-down point of view. Cosmic number of souls, does it remain the same? Well, from the supplement, I'm again quoting Baba, that, Baba said there have been many avatars, there are many universes, there are all this multi-universe and so on and so forth. And as you know, creation, from the first law of thermodynamics, nothing is created nor destroyed, they only change form. And we also know that this is all part of the nothing. The important thing out here is how is it relevant to our self-actualization journey? Okay. So the answer could be souls might be increasing, souls might not be increasing, but we definitely know that in 84 lakh lifetimes, a soul will get liberated. Do all souls get created at the same time? Now, you know what? The most important question out here is, can somebody define what is soul? Okay. This is the most important question. See, the beauty of the English language is it is a beautiful language, but it is very ambiguous. So one of the things I try to do when I give a presentation to corporates is I say, like, look, if I'm going to talk about my presentation, first we have to come to an understanding of what are the words we are going to use and what is the meaning, the interpretation based on the context of this presentation. Like, for example, we talk about love, ego, being, becoming, sanskaras. We can't assume that people know the definitions because everybody is going to interpret it differently. So here I can tell you my understanding of the soul. The soul is everything, the self, the soul and self are one. Everything, this is again the 7 realities, okay? For example, the 7 realities, first 2 realities where Baba talks about existence and love, the only real existence and the only real love, where he has defined existence as self, he has defined it as infinity, truth, I can call it being, super consciousness, Brahman, and so on. So I think we have to understand what is the basis, what does it mean? Like, so one analogy we have is from the ocean. The water gets separated from the ocean, gets a bubble, so that water molecule is considered like a drop soul, which has a bubble called the wim. And to know itself, it has to go through that process of evolution, reincarnation, involution. Now, remember that I have pointed out that whenever we are reading about the soul, you should interpret it as the consciousness of the soul. Because when you read God Speaks, we know that the whim creates the infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness. And both are from the nothingness. Okay. So to give the semantic aspect, because nobody can understand the soul or the self unless we become self-realized. Okay. So I think that the question here, do all souls get created at the same time? I think it is the analogy of the rainy season, It goes, comes back, there are multiple universes. So I think this question, is irrelevant. How do we understand 1 and 2 in the context of Mahapralaya? Again, Mahapralaya is the analogy to going to sleep, sound sleep state. Because this whole creation, preservation, dissolution is part of the grand illusion, it doesn't matter, After dropping of the body, do the parts have souls? What the hell is that? Do the parts have soul? Oh, okay, we are talking about the tissue. Absolutely. I think that if we understand that everything is coming from the source or self, for me, the soul is the self. It has just split into like a hologram, multiple images of the same thing. There is no difference between the drop soul and the over soul, which is very clear. Only thing that is going on is the consciousness of the soul. There are only two states, the Paratpar Parabrahma state, where God is unconscious of himself. And when he wakes up, he has the whim, who am I? And it splits into two. One becomes eternal avataric infinite consciousness, state 2B, who is the one who descends into the first drop soul and makes him God realized and makes him into the avatar. So whenever we are talking about the avatar, the first thing we have to say is not avatar is God in human form. We should say avatar is the first drop soul who became God realized by the eternal avataric infinite consciousness, Nirguna Nirakar, state 2B, which happened simultaneously and spontaneously during the most original Vim state. And he became, that entity became the avatar. So I think that second, then you say avatar is not God. Avatar is God in human form, right? It's a messenger of God, because the avatar is a drop soul, frankly. So technically, all drop souls are part of the over souls. So we can say that that soul is the self, and it's only the consciousness which is going through this. Now, fifth one, Baba's direct word reference for newer souls being created. One reference already shared by, well, I think when we talk about newer souls, see the whole, the physicists are working at multiple universes. There are 7,000 different Earth-like, entities in different kingdoms of evolution based on just the Milky Way galaxy. Just based on our cosmos, okay, statistically speaking. And there are multiple universes like that. So this whole thing is a grand illusion. It doesn't matter whether, what is going on. The fact of the matter is, what is it to me? I'm going to be very selfish. I am here. I've got 4 stages, Brahmachari, Grahasti, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. I'm going to drop my body. If I'm lucky, I'll get liberated. I won't come back. Or if I'm not so lucky, I'm going to come back again. And that's going to be based on how I ended up, whether I thought about Baba or I thought about like, hey, I didn't become a billionaire, So number 6, how long this process of awakening of all human beings and evolution and awakening of all other forms to go on, when will it end? It's never, there is no beginning, there is no end. It is like our daily state. What is the difference between birth and death and our daily state? What we are doing is, Baba said, you get up in the morning, you go have a shower, have new clothes, and then you go to sleep again. So what is happening is you are in the consciousness of the soul is in the same gross body, which is changing. Subtle body and mental body are changing, and you have the same brain till you die. When you reincarnate, you go to the astral form, the consciousness of the gross body gets dropped off, but the subtle body and mental body are preserved. It takes a new form and it has a new brain. That is the only difference. So we know that by 84 lakh human lives, you will become liberated. So the reason for having a perfect master avatar is, can I get my PhD quicker? So, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, I have a question. How come the population is increasing? What happened? Where are these souls coming from?
My answer is very simple. This is the avataric age. We have read The reason why Baba used to have a watchman, a night watchman, is the many spirits, they are coming to the perfect master or avatar to release them. Okay. This is one of the reasons why Baba, there are many other reasons why Baba wanted a night watchman and all that. You know, there are many stories. I won't go deep into that. You will read it when you read Lord Meher. I'm just using this example to show that there are, as we know, there are three kinds of earth, including us: 50% heart and mind, 25% heart, 75% mind, and 100% mind. Now, we all know that the real desire is self-realization, self-actualization. So all the souls are willing to take a body and suffer. See, we are seeing a lot of poverty and suffering also, you know, like the 1% owning 99%. But remember that we all take human form knowing before we take the human form in the astral form why we are doing it. We are just not conscious of it for various reasons. Okay. So my reason, the answer to your question is that as Baba is now available for 100 years till 2069, as much as he was available in the physical form, all the souls, whether in embodied form as a human or as spirits in different worlds and in different planets or whatever you call it, they are interested to use this opportunity to come down to earth and go through this experience. I can go on and on, but that is a short explanation to a very, very long, detailed answer. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Okay, so it was supposed to be a discussion. So any other points of view on the questions or answers or further questions, we can take it up now or we can continue reading. Mics are not unmuting, but Mamaji is saying something.
Yes, it was supposed to be a discussion, but it was a discourse. Thank you.
I have just one question. Did I make sense to all the questions now? Whatever I answered, I hope I want to clarify that. Did it make sense?
No, it partly
Yes.
made
Amazing.
sense to me.
Yes, I think you made
But,
sense, Kama, on everything what you said.
And you threw up a lot of more questions for me. But I will not tell that question right now. Okay.
I have one small question, Kama. When we were saying about the gross body and the gross sphere and subtle body and subtle sphere, the direct and indirect. Can we say indirect as or direct as that majority of the time we are experiencing gross world, and for a very small time we are experiencing subtle world for indirect? For direct, can we change it to time, like majority of the time in a very short duration of time?
Well, I think let me look at it from a case study, an example. Say, suppose you are an athlete or like a ball player, basketball, baseball, football. You will be using your gross body, correct? And the gross body is going to be used directly, but indirectly you're using your subtle body and mental body to make certain decisions, okay? Whereas a chess player or a bridge player, he's technically, yes, he will be using his gross body, but he will be using more of his mental body to make the moves. You get my point?
Yeah.
Similarly, an artist, a painter, or a musician is going to use his emotions, feelings of the subtle body. Now, the question is how direct and indirect is dependent on whether that person is still in the gross sphere of existence with gross sanskaras, or he has evolved into the planes of involution, where in the first 4 planes, you are having there are no more gross sanskaras, but only subtle sanskaras.
Right.
Because only people who have got rid of gross sanskaras can transition to the subtle world and to directly use the subtle body and experience the subtle world. See, we are all living, in the gross world and experiencing we are using our gross body and experiencing the gross world with our gross consciousness.
Right.
But definitely indirectly, you're using your other aspects, the thought aspect of the intelligence part of your mental body, and also the thing. So I think that the first thing that we need to be cognizant is, am I in which plane? 0th plane, gross plane, or I am in the subtle planes 1 to 4, or, so that will determine what body you're using directly, and then the rest will fall into place, depending on what kind of work you're doing.
Let's do
So
a
is
quiz.
it possible
Who's on
that
which plane?
at a particular time, I mean, particular individual or Jivatma, Banavatma, majority time is in the gross plane and sometimes is in subtle plane? You transition between the two.
Yes, absolutely. It is, it's very, at least for me, it's very difficult to articulate this. I'll have to, if you can write the questions and I can try to write it down, maybe I would find a way to explain this better.
Right. Okay.
We are definitely indirectly experiencing the subtle world and mental world. Absolutely.
Yes.
It is the sanskaras, it's going to determine which plane you are in. Number one. See, that is the basic fact. The foundation is sanskaras. Are we having gross sanskaras? Have we transitioned to subtle sanskaras? Have we transitioned to mental sanskaras? Because you remember, people who are in the subtle world with subtle sanskaras are also operating in the gross world because they are using their gross body indirectly. Say, for example, I'll give you one interesting example. This guy Punja, okay, Papaji, he was enlightened by Ramana Maharishi. Okay, it's a great story to read because he was a householder, he was into God and all that. Now, after he became enlightened, he actually said that one day he was sitting in Rishikesh, and watching the Ganges. He used to go there frequently. He's from Lucknow, actually, by the way. He dropped his body in 96, 97. And a lot of Osho followers followed him, actually. Now, what he did was, he said that he was able to see suddenly how his soul, his self, his individualized self had gone through all the different kingdoms, stones, gas, plant, animal, and so on. And that was very fascinating to read because you can't even make up, because I related it to God Speaks. Okay, number one. Number two, he said that in his past life, he was in one of the planes. I don't know whether he was in the mental plane or the subtle plane. Okay. And he had an ashram and all that. And what happened was, he said that he had lustful thoughts towards a person who used to work there in his ashram. And of course, when you read God as infinite love, Baba has said that when you're in the mental world, lust is 25%, but it's sublimated. It is not expressed in subtle form or gross form. When you're in the subtle world, lust is there 50%, but gross expression is not there. It is only a subtle expression, the feeling that, I'm kind of attracted to this person, whatever. So what happened was, when he went into samadhi, by accident, his followers thought that he was dead, So they kind of buried him alive, and those days, when you're a sannyasi or something, they break your head, and he felt all that. And what happened was, in this life, that same lady became his wife. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is that even in the sixth plane, that one can have lustful thoughts, but it might not be expressed in gross or subtle form because you're already in the mental world. You have that much control, but still it's a sanskara. And this guy had to go through that fulfillment of the sanskara or dissolution of the sanskara,
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I made sense, but just an example. Jai
Baba.
Okay, quite a few discourses, but now let's get to the real deal. Let's get to the real deal. Let's read the part 5 of types of meditation. Specialized meditations that are personal.
Karthik, did we finish part 4 complete?
So I asked that question right in the beginning. I think we did before getting to the meditation. Did we or not?
No, we were
Because
in
I
section
have marked
C.
it as 17th. Yeah.
We had started section C, but how far we had gone through that, I think with
So I'll
my
tell you what
mark.
happened. So yeah, so section C, I started on Saturday last and went halfway and stopped here. Where is that?
224, driving force of evolution.
Yeah. No, I stopped here. Okay. That is 17th. On 18th, I decided to read from the beginning again because there's no point of reading the journey of the soul halfway. So we read again. I'm not sure if we finished it. That's what I asked right in the beginning. And I've not marked it for some reason. Right? So
I don't think we finished it.
Okay. But I don't know where to start from. Or do we read it all?
You
Actually,
start from where you had stopped.
So let me
mark driving force of evolution.
No, actually, I would suggest something else. I would suggest that we read this uninterrupted, even if you have questions. So save your questions, because that's the whole idea of this section C. The section C is for absorption and meditation upon. So those of you who want to close your eyes and actually go through this uninterrupted and try to internalize those concepts, which is what I started Sunday morning with. But then people had questions, so then we took those questions and wrote those down. So I think let's try it that way. I will read section C uninterrupted and we'll go all through the end. Those of you who want to experience it like a meditation, please close your eyes and just try to absorb these concepts. I can see what you're doing, Nomita. Bad student. Okay, section C, Jai Baba. The divine truths, the journey of the soul to the oversoul. Subtitle, Soul and its Illusion. Atma, or the soul, is in reality identical with Paramatma, or the oversoul, which is one, infinite and eternal. The soul is, in fact, beyond the gross, subtle, and mental worlds, but it experiences itself as being limited owing to its identification with the sharir, sthula sharir or gross body, the prana, sukshma sharir or subtle body, which is the vehicle of desires and vital forces, and the manas, karana sharir or mental body, which is the seat of the mind. The soul, in its transcendental state, is one, formless, eternal, and infinite, and yet identifies itself with the phenomenal world of forms, which are many and finite and destructible. This is Maya, or cosmic illusion. States of phenomenal world. The phenomenal world of finite objects is utterly illusory and false. It has three states: the gross, the subtle, and the mental. Although all three of these states of the world are false, they represent degrees of falseness. Thus, the gross world is farthest from the truth, God, the subtle world is nearer truth, and the mental world is nearest to the truth. All three states of the world owe their existence to cosmic illusion, which the soul has to transcend before it realizes the truth. Purpose of creation. The sole purpose of creation is for the soul to enjoy the infinite state of the oversoul consciously. Although the soul eternally exists in and with the oversoul in an inviolable unity, it cannot be conscious of this unity independently of creation, which is within the limitations of time. It must therefore evolve consciousness before it can realize its true status and nature as being identical with the infinite oversoul, which is one without a second. The evolution of consciousness requires the duality of subject and object, the center of consciousness and the environment, that is the world of forms. Cause of cosmic illusion. How does the soul get caught up in illusion? How did the formless, infinite, and eternal soul come to experience itself as having form and as being finite and destructible? How did Purusha, or the Supreme Spirit, come to think of itself as Prakriti, or the world of nature? In other words, what is the cause of the cosmic illusion in which the individualized soul finds itself? To realize the true status of the Oversoul, which is one, indivisible, real, and infinite, the soul needs consciousness. The soul does get consciousness. However, this consciousness is not of God, but of the universe, not of the Oversoul, but of its shadow, not of the one, but of many, not of the infinite, but of the finite, not of the eternal, but of the transitory. Thus, the soul, instead of realizing the Oversoul, gets involved in cosmic illusion, and hence, though really infinite, it comes to experience itself as finite. In other words, when the soul develops consciousness, it does not become conscious of its own true nature, but of the phenomenal world, which is its own shadow. Evolution and degree of consciousness. In order to become conscious of the phenomenal world, the soul must assume some form as its medium for experiencing the world, and the degree and kind of consciousness are determined by the nature of the form used as the medium. The soul first becomes conscious of the gross world through a gross form. The consciousness of the gross world that it has in the beginning is of the most partial and rudimentary type. Correspondingly, the soul assumes the most undeveloped form, that of stone. Driving force of evolution. The driving force of evolution consists in the momentum consciousness receives owing to the conservation of the impressions, sanskaras, left by diverse desires or conditions. Thus, the sanskaras cultivated in a particular form have to be worked out and fulfilled through the medium of a higher form and a correspondingly more developed consciousness of the gross world. The soul, therefore, has to assume higher and higher forms like metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, and animal, until, as last, it assumes a human form in which it has fully developed consciousness in all respects of knowing, feeling, and willing of the gross world. The manner in which sanskaras result in the evolution of consciousness and the corresponding forms has a useful analog in ordinary experience. If a man has the desire to act the part of a king on the stage, he can only experience it by actually putting on the garb of a king and going on the stage. This is true of aspirations and desires. They can only be worked out and fulfilled by bringing about an actual change in the entire situation, as well as the medium through which the situation may be adequately experienced. The parallel is very helpful in understanding the driving force of evolution, which is not mechanical, but purposive. Identification with forms. The sanskaras are not only responsible for the evolution of the form, body, and the kind of consciousness connected with it, but they are also responsible for the riveting of consciousness to the phenomenal world. They make emancipation of consciousness, that is, withdrawal of consciousness from the phenomenal world to the soul itself, impossible at the subhuman stage and difficult at the human level. Since consciousness clings to the previous sanskaras and experience of the phenomenal world is conditioned by the use of an adequate form, body, as a medium, The soul, at every stage of evolution, comes to identify itself with the form. Thus, the soul, which in reality is infinite and formless, experiences itself as finite and thinks of itself as being stone, metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, or animal, according to the degree of the development of consciousness. Finally, while experiencing the gross world through the human form, the soul thinks that it is a human being. Reincarnation and law of karma. The soul has fully developed and complete consciousness in the first human form, and therefore there is no need for any further evolution of the gross form. The evolution of forms thus comes to an end with the attainment of human form. To experience the sanskaras cultivated in the human form, the soul has to reincarnate again and again in human forms. The innumerable human forms through which the soul has to pass are determined by the law of karma, or the nature of its previous sanskaras, whether of virtue or vice, happiness or misery. During these lives, the soul, which is eternal, identifies itself with the gross body, which is destructible. Subtle and mental bodies. While developing full consciousness of the gross world, the soul simultaneously develops the subtle and mental bodies. But as long as its consciousness is confined to the gross world alone, it cannot use these bodies consciously in wakefulness. It becomes conscious of these bodies and the corresponding worlds only when its full consciousness turns inward, that is, toward itself. When the soul is conscious of the subtle world through the subtle body, it identifies itself with the subtle body. And when it is conscious of the mental world through the mental body, it identifies itself with the mental body. Just as it identifies itself with the gross body when it is conscious of the gross world through the gross body. Spiritual path. The homeward journey of the soul consists in freeing itself from the illusion of being identical with its bodies, gross, subtle, and mental. When the attention of the soul turns towards self-knowledge and self-realization, there is a gradual loosening and disappearance of the sanskaras that keep consciousness turned toward the phenomenal world. Disappearance of sanskaras proceeds side by side with piercing through the veil of cosmic illusion, and the soul not only begins to transcend the different states of the phenomenal world, but also to know itself as different from its bodies. The spiritual path begins when the soul tries to find itself and turns its full consciousness toward God, toward truth, which is God. At the first stage, the soul becomes totally unconscious of its gross body and of the gross world and experiences the subtle world through the medium of its subtle body, with which it identifies itself. In the second stage, the soul is totally unconscious of its gross and subtle bodies, and also of the gross and subtle worlds, and experiences the mental world through the medium of its mental body, with which it now identifies itself. At this stage, the soul may be said to be face to face with God or the Oversoul, which it recognizes as infinite. But though it recognizes the infinity of the Oversoul, which it objectifies, it looks upon itself as being finite because of its identification with the mental body or mind. Thus, we have the paradox that the soul, which in reality is infinite, sees its infinite state, but still continues to regard itself as finite because while seeing its infinite state, it looks upon itself as the mind. It imagines itself to be the mind and looks upon the Oversoul as the object of the mind. Further, it not only longs to be one with the objectified oversoul, but also tries hard to fulfill that longing. The goal. In the third stage, the full consciousness of the soul is drawn still further inward toward itself, and it ceases to identify itself with the mental body. Thus, in the third and last stage, which is the goal, the soul ceases to identify itself with any of the three bodies that it had to develop for evolving full consciousness. Now, it only knows itself to be formless and beyond all the bodies and worlds, but also realizes with full consciousness its own unity with the Oversoul, which is one, indivisible, real, and infinite. In this realization of the truth, it enjoys infinite bliss, peace, power, and knowledge, which are characteristics of the Oversoul. In the beginning, because the soul has not yet evolved full consciousness, it is unconscious of its identity with the Oversoul. Hence, though intrinsically inseparable from the Oversoul, the soul cannot realize its own identity with it or experience infinite peace, bliss, power, and knowledge. Even after the evolution of full consciousness, it cannot realize the state of the Oversoul, although it is at all times in and with the Oversoul, because its consciousness is confined to the phenomenal world, owing to the sanskaras connected with the evolution of sanskaras, evolution of consciousness. Even on the path, the soul is not conscious of itself, but is conscious only of the gross, subtle, and mental worlds, which are its own illusory shadows. At the end of the path, however, the soul frees itself from all sanskaras and desires, connected with the gross, subtle, and mental worlds. It then becomes possible for it to free itself from the illusion of being finite, which came into existence owing to its identification with the gross, subtle, and mental bodies. At this stage, the soul completely transcends the phenomenal world and becomes self-conscious and self-realized. To attain this goal, the soul must retain its full consciousness and at the same time know itself to be different from the Sharir, gross body, the Pran, subtle body, which is the vehicle of desires and vital forces, and the Manas, mental body, which is the seat of the mind, and also know itself as being beyond the gross, subtle, and mental worlds. The soul has to emancipate itself gradually from the illusion of being finite by liberating itself from the bondage of sanskaras and knowing itself to be different from its bodies, gross, subtle, and mental. It thus annihilates the false ego, that is, the illusion that I am the gross body, I am the subtle body, or I am the mental body. While the soul thus frees itself from its illusion, it still retains full consciousness, which now results in self, capital knowledge, self-knowledge, and realization of the truth. Escaping through the cosmic illusion and realizing with full consciousness its identity with the infinite Oversoul is the goal of the long journey of the soul. Jai Baba. So I think the more I read it, the more I'm falling in love with these few pages. The language is obviously difficult, but I think it's very, very beautiful. It's obviously edited. There are still some few points that we can improve probably, but I think this is just a brilliant piece of text, is my opinion, and worthy of being meditated upon. And it's a summary of all that we are trying to learn in DADS, Discourses and God Speaks, right? So any reactions? How many of you actually meditated?
Yes, this is a real passage that we read through. Section C is the crux of the whole God speaks, or all our gnosis that we are trying to absorb. So it needs repeated reading and then thinking over it, and meditating. So actually, Baba is playing on the word meditation and making us read and meditate on facts. Jai Baba.
Yeah, in fact, even there he's prescriptive. There are 3 types. So 3 steps. The first stage you just read. Second stage, you just take these concepts and think. And third, you go to a next level where you're just thinking about those concepts and internalizing them. So
Yes.
I think it's just awesome. I'm just very pleased with this passage. And it's also a good way of introducing somebody who's already on the spiritual path. If somebody asks me what God speaks is about or what Baba's message is about, I think I'll probably share this passage. That's what I was just thinking about now, saying this is the core of his message. And I go back to again what I found in that Ward Parks session 2, which is Baba's doctrine is all about and around this concept of the divine theme. This is nothing but the divine theme, right? So what we have seen here is the divine theme. And if you recollect, Baba even published a booklet about this divine theme. So it just tells you how important the divine theme is in our journey of gnosis, right? It is the gnosis, actually. Right.
Karthik, for an information, Ward Parks last week's said discourse it is not available on YouTube till now. But that conversation what we had, I was also there live. But he has given the next part of his talk last Sunday that is supposed to be available on YouTube by Monday, as they told in that discussion. I don't find it till now.
Yeah, I am a bit confused about the format as well. But I made a request for publishing that interaction, and which Naman confirmed he would. But I didn't go and check on YouTube. So it's not on YouTube yet. The Sunday
No, that discussion is also not there. And before the discussion, Ward Parks has given a talk on his next, that is actually the part 1 and part 2 are part 1 only of
part 1.
God Speaks. So that was supposed to be available for us to see through this week and then have further discussion on that this Sunday. I don't know.
Oh, so so it's not live, is it? I thought session 1 and 2 was live.
1 and 2 was live. Then they made a change that his talk will be undisturbed. He will give that. It is recorded and put it on YouTube. And after all the people who are interested, they see that they will have a discussion which is live on Sunday between 4 and 5.
Got it.
But they have not till published that in YouTube, or otherwise I am not able to catch it.
Yeah, I didn't go looking because I saw it live. But if it's not there, maybe they're having it. They're having a delay. Anything announced on the anything announced on the group, Soma? You're on the group, right?
No. I was just going to say that they have not posted it on the group either.
Okay, so it's not come out.
Group also they have not posted. But in the discussion on the last Sunday, Ward Parks actually asked somebody when it will be available on YouTube. And somebody answered that it will be done on Monday or so. But it is still not available.
No.
Yep. Cool. So By the way, I asked for the slides as well. So if you post those slides on the group, do share them. So, Mama, are you also on the group? Anybody who's on the
Yes,
group?
yes, I am on the group.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right. So we have another 15 minutes. So how about reading? Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can I ask a question? So we just read about the Jai Baba. We just read about the journey of the soul, right? And we go through this entire journey veiled. We don't know in which plane we are in, whether gross or subtle or mental. Now, are there any characteristics or behavioral pattern which is exhibited by the people in the gross world who belong to a certain plane? Am I making sense?
Yeah, good question. Good question. I don't think Baba has referred to, I mean, I have not come across anything in Baba messages which characterize the planes. Anybody else who has come across something like that? Kama? Ashok?
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Can you hear me?
I can only say that on page 3 that they don't not talking about the traits, but about the traits of the functionalities of seeing, hearing, smelling, eating, sleeping in the gross sphere, and the experiences of seeing, smelling, and hearing in the subtle sphere, and seeing only in the mental sphere. That is the only thing I think which is mentioned, which I can refer to directly, which talks about the abilities as you progress on the scale, on the planes. And that's the only thing I can think of on page 3, which is there on God Speaks. And the other is that the degrees of the intensity of the sanskaras, as Kama also is referring to, is somehow reducing. And so to my mathematical mind, I think about that pyramid shape, that as we go up, the intensity of the sanskaras and the degree of the sanskaras gets reduced. And there's also a mention about the cosmic veil in this part which we read on meditation. So probably the piercing the veil and then reaching on the other side, which I read along with chart, the last chart, I think it's chart 11 at the end of God Speaks. The chart 11 is also, can talk about the piercing of the veil. So that's all I can say about the question. I hope it answers, or at least to a certain extent, answers the question.
I think Soma is trying to sort of find out whether there is some sort of a psychological or parapsychological quasi-scientific scale to identify a person to be categorized as in either gross or say subtle 1, 2, 3, 4 or mental 5, 6. Is that?
In a way, yes.
Huh?
In a way, yes, you are right,
yes.
Lataji. For example, like these certain souls, we say they're elevated souls, they are maybe masters, perfect masters. We don't know if they're perfect masters, but we definitely know that they are elevated souls. Like say Jaggi Vasudevan or our Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. We believe that they are, they are maybe God realized souls. So similarly, all the other 7 billion souls, we are somewhere, hopefully, many of us are in some part of the plane. Yes. So do we exhibit any behavioral patterns that identifies that, okay, this person probably is perhaps somewhere there on the path, or is still just going through the process of reincarnation and unwinding sanskaras, or on the spiritual path? Is there any?
So the ready reckoner for identifying so people in different planes. So some sort of a guide for us to say gauge on this issue. I don't think there is anything like that, but I don't know. Anyone else who has some idea can.
Yeah, Kama was trying to say something. Go ahead, Kama.
Jai Baba. So the way I understood the question is, are there any signs that we can recognize of people, what we call as advanced spiritual aspirants in different planes, whether they are in the subtle planes, 1 to 4, or whether they are in the 5th and 6th plane? Are there any characteristics? In fact, this question was asked to Baba. In fact, this question was asked to Baba about identification of God realized people or even Sadgurus. Are there any external signs from which we can recognize whether this person is perfect or not? It's a very, very subjective question. Baba has given in the supplement. I don't know which supplement you can find it. He has given certain characteristics for God realized beings. Okay, that they are always look, blissful, cheerful, all that stuff. And the energy is different. For example, when you go to Ramana Maharishi, we have heard about people with a lot of questions, list of questions. You go there, and it is with any self-realized person. Once you go into that energy, you sit there, you forget everything because you become one with that particular entity because they have that power, Ultimately, what is a mind? It's a monkey mind in the waking state. Okay, it's going to ask all kinds of stupid and non-stupid questions, of course. But to come back to your question, I can tell you my understanding that, as you rightly said, when you go from the gross sanskaras to subtle sanskaras, which means have gone from the phenomenal gross world to the subtle world, which are basically what we call as subtle sphere of existence, where there are 4 planes. Of course, the first plane is the threshold between the gross world and the subtle world. And the 4th plane is the threshold of the subtle world and the mental world. Now, ABC, that is the good old Ashok Bansali, the chancellor, future chancellor of Baba University, he said it right, that the sound, what I call as T square S cube, touch, taste, sound, smell, sight. So sound, smell, sight are subtle. It converts from gross to subtle in the 1st to the 4th plane. And there are different degrees. Baba has talked about subtle sounds. You will have subtle smells suddenly, I think I have experienced that sometimes, but I don't want to get entangled in all those, frankly. Suddenly you will smell something, and you will say like, hey, where is the smell coming from? Some things can trigger that, we don't know. And so the 3 things, sound, sight, and smell of the subtle kind happens in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th plane. Okay. And similarly, when you go into the mental plane, 5th and 6th plane, 5th is the domain of thoughts and the 6th is the domain of feelings. You don't get any sound or smell. It is only sight, basically. That is why people on the 5th and 6th plane don't do miracles, because subtle world has to do with power and energy, whereas mental world is more about thoughts and feelings. So people in the 5th and 6th plane lose the ability to do miracles and all that, but they have the mental sight. We know 6th plane, you see God everywhere. See, we don't see it because of sanskaras, because God is always present. Baba's grace is always around us, but we are not available to it because of our sanskaras. So I think that we don't have the capability as an ordinary human being with gross sanskaras to recognize somebody in the subtle world. It's like the guy who is in high school is not going to be able to relate to a guy with a bachelor's degree, but the guy in the master's degree can relate to the bachelor's degree, and the PhD guy can relate to the bachelor's degree. The bachelor's degree guy can't relate to the master's degree. So if you look at the bachelor's degree like being in the subtle planes and the master's degree as being in the mental planes, and getting the PhD as liberation, and probably getting the Nobel Prize as being a Sadguru, just analogies, then basically what Baba has said that a Sadguru can recognize another Sadguru, okay? Because they are in the same plane, they understand each other. Also, one God realized being can look at another God realized beings because they are in the same plane.
Just like two people who are doing PhDs can talk the same language, you have to go down to the level of a kindergarten student or high school student if you're doing a PhD and talk to him about his knowledge of physics or whatever. So in that context, let's say, for example, if you start getting, like Baba has taken the example of Beethoven. Beethoven was deaf, but he could compose music because he was in the subtle plane. So he could hear subtle sounds and he could compose music that was given in discourses. So only the person who is in the subtle world will know personally that, yes, I have the siddhis. I'm able to hear subtle sounds. I'm able to smell subtle smells. And I have subtle sights. Because as we know that from God Speaks, the subtle world is probably millions of times bigger than the gross world. Even though from physics, we know that the gross world seems to be so infinite, Baba said it's nothing. And I think when you read this, what Karthik just read, it talks about how the subtle world, mental world are closest to the self, So I think that to answer your question, only the person who is in that particular subtle world or mental world can actually recognize their siddhis. And maybe if you're in that same plane, you will be able to recognize, yes, this person has that. And I think the examples are people in South America, and there are people in the South and North who can cure people with their hands. They have these siddhis, we have heard about this. And even in Hyderabad during the Corona time, some guy had this ability, he did something where many people got cured and all that for Corona and all that. So these are people with those subtle powers because of their past sanskaras. And I think that we should not get entangled in any of this. According to my understanding of Baba's literature is, he said, don't worry about the subtle world. Don't worry about the mental world because they are part of the real illusion. Even the material world with Bezos and Branson going on, that is part of the false illusion. So both material, that is reincarnation, which is false illusion, and illusion planes from 1 to 6 are part of the real illusion. False illusion plus real illusion is equal to 0. So I was telling Karthik, lately, I have had this insight, an enlightening moment where I said, it's not about self-realization. It is about self-abidance because you are the self, because you are a walking Buddha. We are all souls are walking Buddhas. Some people are consciously or theoretically aware of it, but we have to experience it on a daily basis, and try to increase the intensity of that self-abidance that you are a walking Buddha. But for that, you need to use the provisional working ego and you need to behave like God, God-like qualities. There's nothing like God, that. It is only about godliness is our divinity. Jai Baba.
Kama, I just want to add, thank you, Soma. I hope that, of course, he's given a very elaborate answer. I just wanted to bring or highlight supplement 11. Kama, are you referring to that different types of miracles? And supplement 12, 12, which is kinds of powers, on page 67 of God Speaks. Maybe
sure.
The supplement is on page 208 to 215. I think that's what we can read, and that relates to the question, I think. Does it relate?
Thank you. I should do that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I was talking on a muted mic. Great answer, Kama. Thank you. Soma, does that help? Do you have anything to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was, as usual, wonderful. And I will also go through the supplement in God Speaks to get more insight into it. Thank you so much, Jai Baba.
Great. So with that, I think we're almost out of time. And we'll catch up tomorrow with part 5. And I'm just thinking that we should make it a habit to read this 4 pages, 5 pages as often as possible. So that's just a thought I'm putting out there for those of you who want to also try to do that, right? With that, wrapping up for the day,
Karthik,
Rajesh.
one,
Kama.
Yes, Kama. One quick thought here. What you just read on section C, it says the divine truths for meditation through reading, the journey of the soul to the oversoul. So based on God speaks, it should be expressed as the journey of the drop soul to the oversoul. Okay, that is one aspect. Remember, there have been a lot of semantic changes from discourses to God speaks. So sometimes it gets very confusing. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. And second thing is that, and also second thing I wanted to point out was that remember that every time you come across the word soul, remember nothing happens to the soul. It is the consciousness of the soul or the soul's consciousness. When it says, for example, on page 225, the paragraph, the soul has fully developed and complete consciousness in the first human form. Yes. So you can say the consciousness of the soul has become fully developed and complete in the first human form. So the way these sentences are phrased, it gets confusing. So remember that it's consciousness which is going through changes, but nothing happens to the soul. And third thing I wanted to point out the last two paragraphs on page 227, where it says the second paragraph, at this stage, the soul completely transcends the phenomenal world. It should be again at this stage, the third stage, the consciousness of the soul completely transcends the phenomenal world and becomes self-conscious and self-realized. So what you are seeing is that from gross conscious soul to subtle conscious soul to mental conscious soul to the soul becoming self-conscious when sanskaras become zero. And then the last line, escaping through the cosmic illusion, which we know is the reincarnation false illusion and involution, which is real illusion. So that we can call as cosmic illusion. And realizing with full consciousness its identity with the infinite oversoul is the goal of the long journey of the soul. So again, the long journey of the soul is the consciousness of the soul. Remember that during the whim, it is the whim that creates consciousness, the most fundamental aspect of sanskaric. The sanskaras create consciousness. So that is why it's very, confusing sometimes, long journey of the soul. That is why I can understand why Ravi was asking the question, what is the soul? Soul is everything, but it is only consciousness which is going through the different stages and reaching super consciousness or self-consciousness or Maha Chaitanya, which is the goal of the long journey of the soul's consciousness. And one more thing is in God Speaks, I don't have time to read it, but I'll try to find the page number. What is the difference is the soul in the Paratpar Parabrahma state, which is part of the oversoul in the ocean, is unconscious. But when it goes through this evolution, reincarnation, involution, this soul becomes fully realized, okay, the consciousness of the soul, and actually has what you call as individualized consciousness, okay, super consciousness. This is the difference between state 1 and state 2. So the only journey of the soul is to go from being from unconscious divinity to conscious divinity, and it maintains its individuality even after God realization. So Jai Baba.
If I would like to add a point here, this was I think one of the other book which we are attending. There is a clear chapter on this, where that individualized soul instead to be, that is at this stage of developmental cycle 8 stage, station 8, they become God realized, but still remain as individualized soul. So all the God realized souls are individualized souls remaining in the Nirakara state. Is this statement correct? I would like to have a confirmation on that.
Yes, it's correct.
Okay, thank you. But we always say the drop soul merges with the over soul. So when we say like that, we feel that we are getting fused with the over soul, and over soul is the only thing available everywhere. But whereas when we state that the individualized realized soul is in the state to be in the Nirakara, so there are all God realized souls remain as individualized souls. They don't get fused with the oversoul. So this is the point which needs a lot of clarity. So I am getting disturbed there to understand this aspect.
I join you in your disturbance. I'm confused too.
Okay.
But your point, Kama, is well taken, and for all of us to reflect. You've been saying it since Saturday last. Don't see it as soul, but consciousness of the soul. It hit me only now. It didn't hit me on Sunday. It didn't hit me right through the week. I think now I get clearly what you're saying, which is the replace everything where you're talking about soul as consciousness of the soul. And your point also well taken on the semantic challenge of reading anachronistically, right? This is older and God Speaks is newer, but then the divine theme is as quoted in discourses may be slightly different. But even if it is, given that we are reading the God Speaks anyway and we are in the journey, this is a succinct and brief way of engaging with the theme on a regular basis. On that thought, maybe we should also pick up where that divine theme booklet is and see how long that is, because that is after discourses, if I remember right. The divine theme booklet was written after discourses, and then after that came God Speaks. So just another thought. But thank you very much. Engaging Saturday morning. I hope that it was the same for all of you. Have a great weekend, and let's catch up tomorrow morning. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Jai Baba.
Baba ki jai.
Yeah, Baba, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Jai Baba. Thanks.
Thank you. Jai Baba, thank you.